Hello, I'm Dale Matthews, and welcome to the Mike Jones Show featuring Dale Matthews. Hi, Mike.
Yes, it's about time I'm starting to get my recognition here. Uh, I disagree with your sign here today. You're flipping sides, Dale. I
I'm
don't like
I'm,
it.
I'm flipping insane, is what I am. Okay, you must trust your
Yes.
politicians! Exclamation point. It's continuing. This
Well,
this
you know what?
crazy
There is
policy.
sadly there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are not even politicians in this town that really think that way. And we run
They
into them on social media all the time. These people, government can do no wrong.
Yeah, they really think that. And of course, they're right when they say, "Oh, you always say government could do no right." Well, that's not true. That's not what I always say. But they're right that people who say government's always wrong, well, that's not correct. I wish they were right more of the
Yeah,
time.
that's true.
Yeah. Okay. So, but that doesn't make up for people who say, "Well, you should never criticize them." We've heard that at the weekly business session. These sessions should
Well,
only be for saying positive things and supportive things of our government. Are you crazy?
yes, right.
This is a business
You know
session,
what?
not a
I think people should go back and look at how the country was formed,
yeah,
and it was about as small a government as possible, and only fulfilling the functions that was absolutely necessary from government. And typically in a town or in a
yeah,
county, you'd have the sheriff, you'd have maybe a court situation.
a
That's pretty
militia.
much it,
Yeah,
and right. And they probably had, at one point in time, they start with property taxes. And so now they have to have a listing of everybody's properties and, the local records and everything. But beyond these type of functions, I'm very, very skeptical when they want to add the department of this and the department of that and the department of this. I just think that's way too much. Why don't you do less instead of more?
well, it's like Cheryl said the other day. Sorry, there's some delay, guys. You're used to that. Cheryl said a couple of days ago. She said, "Well, we've got an oversight committee for everything." It's like she's proud of it. Cheryl, we
Yeah,
don't
that's
need
a
an
problem.
oversight committee for everything. What? What?
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate, and we don't need all of that. I just think that if things come up for consideration, the more often you don't want to inject yourself as government into that process, the better off you are. Unless you can not avoid it in any way, you should avoid it. And
Yeah.
listen, if you look at Article 1, Section 8, when they were considering what federal government was going to be involved with, and the 10th Amendment, it's like not very much,
Right.
very, very little at all. You just, only a small function. And they're so far outside of the Constitution now, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think that what that does is that sort of gives license to these lower governments, or more local governments, I should say, to do exactly the same thing themselves, because it's almost like they're taking that as leadership. It's like go ahead and do this. It's fine if you want to have your own private department of environmental quality or whatever. And that sounds fantastic until you start injecting it into people's businesses and hindering everything that they do. Listen, I'm for common sense stuff, but I think for the most part, people are decent and they don't need to be followed around like a nanny with a kid on a short leash.
Yeah, I don't like that whole thought of kids on a leash. You've seen them. I don't like that at all.
Yeah,
well, that's not my business. That's their business. If that's the way they want to run their family, kid on a leash.
You don't see that very often anymore, thank God. I mean, that was sort of a thing in the 90s there. You'd see a lot of that. When my kid was little, I'm not putting my kid on a leash.
Well, I can understand if he's always running off that you'd be concerned. But I
right.
mean, you also live in a community where a kid on a leash, no.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that if you teach discipline, discipline that comes from love, you don't have those problems with a kid taking off and being a problem like that. It's not going to happen. So
yeah, well, we've got a couple of problems that are continuing in this community, and if you think that we're talking about it too much, it's simply because this new policy of this administration here in Josephine County is truly insane. I mean, it's wrong. It's crazy. Let me tell you where this kind of thing started. So, Mike, why don't you put up that photo? You'll recognize this guy. This is Dave Toller.
This is Dave Toller.
Right. Now, Dave is sitting right next to the sheriff. And also at the table is John Harrelson, kind of certifiable in my opinion. And the assessor was there for some kind of reason. And now, the important thing to know about this photo is Dave Toller, right after this press conference, claimed that this photo never happened.
Mm-hmm.
That he never held up pictures of candidates that he didn't like. Never did it. Now, this is really important to figure this out. The sheriff swore to the Secretary of State in an official response that this never happened. The treasurer swore.
I think you need to explain a little bit more to us about what's going on here, because
even if I didn't, which I'm going to, but even if I didn't, how could you possibly swear this never happened when we captured it on videotape? The courier was there. Okay, maybe they were asleep. One of the TV stations were there. The place was filled full of people, and we have a photo. But he swore, this was the first time I'd ever seen this happen anywhere, that this never happened. So what's happening in this one is Sandy Casanelli and Jack Allen Brown were running for commissioner. Sandy got in, despite the fact that 5 elected officials inside the courthouse, during the time when you're not allowed to say anything pro or con about a candidate, 5 elected officials inside the courthouse told you that it was a bad idea to vote for these people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where Art Harvey also gets involved, because Art Harvey sent back a letter to the elections division saying that's okay because this happened more than 100 feet from a ballot drop box. Well, in order to capture 100 feet, he had to bypass the door a number of us came in, go all the way to the end of the hallway, you've heard me say this before, make a U-turn, and come about halfway back to equal 100 feet. Even a kindergarten student knows you don't turn around in a U-turn and then suddenly come back. But the other thing was, more important than that, and Mike knows, it makes no difference whether it was 99 or 101 feet, because
in the same building. Yeah.
They're not allowed to do it in the same building.
Right.
That's your Art Harvey, who's up for re-election soon. Okay. So Dave Toller swore up and down in an official letter, as did the sheriff. Steve Rich was involved. Steve Rich, we'll get back to him near the end of the show. They never did this, you see. And although you think that you're seeing right now, you believe that you're seeing a photo, and we've got the video, of course, and there's eyewitnesses. This never happened.
Yeah, so, that's clearly not his fingers, Dale.
That's actually what Rika Brown said. But Rika, you were there. Yeah, but those aren't his fingers. Rika, why would I do that?
What difference would it make if you put different fingers in there if he still did the same thing and she was there to witness it?
That's correct.
What difference would that make?
So, look, this still frame, I could have fixed that using Facebook. Using
Facebook fixes everything.
Using
Photoshop,
right? I could have fixed it so that no one would question. I'm not going to doctor the photo. That is, show that one more time, Mike, please. This is a 30th of a second, 1/30th of 1 second. And so there's a possibility something strange. I don't really see the strangeness, but she was absolutely sure that those aren't his fingers. First of all, it makes no sense to do that.
Yeah,
none at all. Second, he did do this, and there are witnesses. I know he said he didn't.
And you have video, which is a whole lot harder to fake than this.
That's right. Now, so we're going to do this carefully tonight. You're looking at this. Well, you were looking at this photo. So the question is, now you're looking at
the
this
photo.
strange,
Look at it so I
okay,
can get
all
it
right.
off the screen, memorize it.
Now the
Turn it
question
into
to
your brain.
you, our viewers, is: are you actually seeing this, or are you imagining it?
Yes.
Now, this is how I got in so much trouble with the guys in the Illinois Valley, because they were absolutely, completely sure that you must trust your politician, and Dave was their politician. And so when he said he didn't do it, by gosh, that's enough for them. He never did it.
Yes. You know what? I think some people, they're so fiercely, pardon me, fiercely partisan, that and they're so connected to one person there that they're not going to vary from their in loyalty to that person at all. And when you see stuff, you have to admit, and listen, it happens on a national basis all the time. You have situations exactly like this where somebody does something and you see the tape and, the guy's hardcore supporters go, no, this is, it's really this spin,
Well, spin like this is about right. I mean, you would think that you've got a picture, and you got witnesses, and you got a document. Well, we never issued a press release. Yes, you did. It's a press conference, and you had a press release. And the sheriff says, well, I wasn't the co-sponsor. It says on there that you're the co-sponsor. That was the sheriff. This is where he and I parted company. And I said, would you like to see the tape? No. He was angry. No, I don't want to see the tape. But you did do this. No, I never did it. It was in his official report to the Secretary of State. Now, I can understand there are people in our community who say it's okay to lie to the Secretary of State because I don't like those guys up north. I kind of understand that. But this wasn't standing up for a principle. This was saving your bottom. I don't like it. They shouldn't have done it. It was illegal. It was an illegal press conference where they were trying to convince you not to vote for somebody. Now, maybe you like the fact that she was running. You don't like the fact. That's not the point. Don't lie to me and say you never did it, because we just see that you did it. Yeah, despite the fact that you've got this stellar representative, Enrica Brown, saying you never did it, even though she was there. That's
I mean, I have my persuasion politically. I have my way of thinking.
Is it in the shape of a big stick, Mike?
Sometimes.
Is that your persuasion politically? Okay.
Yes, right. Yes, Dale. So anyway, but lying to accomplish something, you're never going to outrun that. You're never going to outrun it. It's always going to be there. Somebody's always going to remind you of it. You're never fully going to get away with doing something like that. I just don't understand the rationale behind doing it. Now, I understand that there are going to be embarrassments. You're going to make mistakes.
Oh, of course. In politics? Absolutely.
Yes, of course.
Even on a television show.
Right. And the smartest thing,
as that is, yes.
Yes. The smartest thing to do in a case like that is to go, you know what, that was, I screwed up there. That was dumb. Yeah. And that's the easiest way. But when you deny reality, when it's, if it's on video and you look at the video and you see that it's on the video, even if you remembered it differently, the video is unbiased.
Right.
It says, here it is. I don't care what your ideology is. This is what happened. It's the truth.
And he did it real slowly. Like he held it up like this. Real slowly. This was no thing like, oh, look at this. And then take it. No, he did it real slowly. Everybody can see that. And the whole purpose of the press conference was nothing other than to tell you, don't vote for these people we don't like. Jack Allen Brown lost by just a couple of percentage points. And try to convince the guy, would you please complain about this? Because Sandy probably lost some points because people, they want to believe their sheriff. Gil Gilbertson, they want to believe him. They want to believe their legal counsel. Why, my gosh, Dave Toller, a county commissioner, sent a letter to the Secretary of State. No, I never did that. I mean, all these people, they all swore in almost exactly the same words. It was kind of interesting that they never, ever did that. Well, of course we supplied them the videotape. They didn't do anything about it. So that was a while back too. Okay, so now just to kind of complete the arc here of the story, we ran into the same situation. Hadn't seen this in years. And then Roy Lindsay did it along with Wally Hicks. Sorry. Well, no, that thing that you said about Mark Bartholomew, yeah, we're playing it back one more time, that happened in the courtroom, it never happened. He didn't say that. That's completely untrue. It doesn't matter what you have on tape. You're not misinterpreting it. You're not playing it out of context. It simply never happened. Here's what simply never happened. Please watch it and see if you see that it's simply not happening.
The city can revoke the levy or the utility fee or the sales tax for that matter at any time. The city council, as a matter of fact, could have implemented this the sales tax without a vote of people. However, I think it would be politically difficult to do so. They say it also, I believe that it would mislead voters if we were to say that the sales tax is permanent. Because again, it could be revoked.
Now, what you did not hear was Mark Bartholomew, the city attorney. You didn't hear this now. Now pay attention. You didn't hear him say that your vote can be revoked at any time. You did not hear him say that it can be placed on the ballot at any time without your permission, that they can take it off anytime. You didn't hear that. What's the matter with you?
Or they could pass the sales tax without your vote either.
And that it was all a matter of politics. They didn't say that. What's the matter with you? Roy Lindsay swears that they didn't. And, well, so did Wally Hicks. Now, Wally backed off a little bit, but only after I gave him the bunny look of death, which is this.
Yes.
Wally, what are you doing, bud?
No, listen.
They were both in the room.
It's obvious that either they're not, because that wasn't pertinent to what they wanted to get out of that day's experience. They didn't hear that. And so because they didn't hear that, or it didn't pop, I mean, we talked about this yesterday. Like some things will make me go, well, wait a minute. What was that? Well, there's a lot of people that just sit in the room and that doesn't do anything to them at all, because they're not thinking that, hey, government needs to be held in check in a small little box. Somebody said this somewhere along the line. I forget who it was exactly. They said, a government needs to be small enough so that you can drown it in the bathtub.
Yeah, that's a pretty famous saying, but I don't know who said it either.
Yes, I don't know who said it either, but I think it's probably not a bad idea. But and people will misconstrue that and say, "Oh, you know what he was saying?" Huh?
Oh,
no, that they will have heard, but they'll spin it however. But no, this is one of those situations where many people, they hear stuff, they don't care about it, so it doesn't register, and because it didn't register, and it wasn't important to them at the time, they're not going to, they're going to deny it ever happened. And that's clearly what's happening in this case.
We resolved for this evening to look at this and give the other side on this every benefit of a doubt. Yeah. Okay, so they were there in the room. Both of them were. Others were there. The mayor was there. I think they did a great job. And all the rest of these people were, lots of people were there. The news media supposedly was there. We were there with 2 cameras. We've played you this tape now. We've played it a number of times. Right. I've repeated it in an editorial, letter to the editor. I've repeated it at city council meetings more than once. Okay. So here's
he even reposted it on his YouTube page again, even though the entirety in 2 parts of this hearing, both of those are posted up there too, so you can see the whole thing unbroken. Right.
All of it. Now,
all of it.
So how did this happen? It happened because, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, Mike. Let's do that. They sat in that room. Maybe they've seen the tape. but it just wasn't making any sense to them, or they didn't want to believe it, or didn't think it happened. So how did it come up where they would deny it? It came up because I was at an Oath Keepers meeting, right? And I went there to videotape whatever it was that Wally Hicks had to say. He doesn't like to be videotaped by us anymore. Uh-huh. And he denied when I told people what had happened at that, because they asked me to get up and say, tell us what's going on. When I told people what happened, both he and Wally Hicks denied our tape.
Yeah, and listen, I think Wally knows better than this.
Now,
I
Wally
think
was, now, I'm sorry, let me say that differently. Wally was talking about the tape that we posted of what happened about the fire standards. I need to say that more clearly.
okay. All right.
And it was Roy Lindsay who was disputing another tape, which was what happened in that courtroom. But then afterwards, after that, I asked Wally, well, that happened in the courtroom. Well, no, I don't remember it that way. So that's 2-1, whatever the deal is. Their new tactic is, I don't think this is sustainable. Their new tactic is to deny what's on the tape. Not that you're misinterpreting it. No, that's not, because I asked him. No, that's not it. Not that the wind was blowing the wrong direction, or you couldn't understand it, or there was some other kind. No. It never happened. You can't keep doing that.
Yeah, that it is unsustainable. And listen, you know what? If any of these people are hoping to hold future office somewhere, you realize that the more you provoke this action, and you are provoking this action that we're taking right now, we wouldn't even be talking about this had you just gone, oh yeah, he said that, he's wrong, that was stupid. You could have done that. You could have done that and avoided all of this. But no, now we're doing a show especially about this because your pride is too huge to go, yeah, that was dumb and it shouldn't have been said and it isn't true or whatever. You could have done all of these things, but no, you just decided that, no, I'm just going to deny that it exists. And you hope that the viewership of this program is so infinitesimal that you can deny it all day long and get away with it. It's not going to happen.
And you hope they don't watch Bill, don't listen to Bill Meyer's show on KMED. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a straight out question. I have not mentioned this to you before, Mike, but when these people are hopping up and down angry, people don't get angry if there's not a reason, right? And if they're that angry about it, and they're all saying it, so many of this administration at the moment is saying never, 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 never happened. You just got it completely wrong. Not that you're misinterpreting it. It just never happened. Didn't you go back and look at the tape to see, I know I've seen this, but did it happen?
Oh, no, I didn't, because I've seen it. I was there. Yes. I saw it the first time when it happened, and then we have played it on the show a couple of times. And listen, I don't need to reassure myself of what I've already seen. I know that that's the case.
Bill Meyer went back and looked at it again.
Yeah, well, and that's fine. Listen,
no, I'm not jumping all over the guy's case. I'm just saying, look, one of the justifications, that's what we're here for tonight. And we're going to talk about justification in a minute. But one of the justifications for this tactic is, if you say something really loud and you get really angry about it, a number of people might say, gosh, did they really say that? I know I've seen it, but were my eyes lying to me?
Yeah, you know what? This kind of hurts me in terms of, because I had Wally in a box that I kind of respected, and you know what? Unless Dale's lying to me about what occurred in their interactions after the backroom meeting, which I doubt, then he is saying that this never happened, and he apparently did this in public too at this Oath Keepers meeting. And so there was a number of people there. I'm assuming there was 20, 30 people there at least.
Oh, there was about 80.
Okay, so a lot of people, maybe even some people watching this program witnessed Wally saying that, yeah, that never happened. I don't know what you're talking about, or whatever, however he said it,
Okay, so it happened again this morning. There was more action in the hallway than there was in the meeting with the commissioners. Thursday's their big day. And I'm sitting there with Jan Ford and Ignatz.
And her husband?
Yeah, and her husband. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And Ignatz, isn't that his name? Larry Ford had not heard this before, okay, about anything happening with these. I don't know why, but he hadn't heard about what's going on with the latest version of
the
denials.
fire standards ordinance.
Right, yes. Denials with that. And so as I'm sitting there, the lady that was sitting up at the table, and we're going to show you that also, she's walks by a couple of times, back and forth while we're talking. Finally, she stops and she leans over to the two of them and Jan Ford is perfectly happy to hear this. Man, she was ready. She's the one that says we don't have a website. And so she leans over to them and she says, I just want you to know, this is a literal quote, none of that ever happened.
Okay.
Well, that's another one.
Okay. Yes. None of that ever happened. It depends on what she's referring to when she says that.
The meaning of is. I was telling
but wait a minute.
I was show you.
I don't know the conversation that you were having with the Fords.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
This clip now.
The majority of comments I've had made to me say that the county is dictating what these companies can charge, and that's not what we're doing. But I think it needs to be clarified in here that they will provide their rate sheets that we can approve, and then if they need, then they can request rate increases based on, whatever they need in the future. Provide us that rate sheet. That's, and they may not be the same. The companies may be different because of their different overhead costs.
So then, to be clear, a company could change their rates at any point in time, and as long as that was submitted to you along with any other changes, because we've also asked that they list out their staffing, different things about their response, simply making sure that whatever they're submitting to us is current, that would then become part of the public record.
But no one.
Now, that lady that's sitting there in the front that's just saying that, that's Jenny Hall. And the fellow sitting right next to her is, no doubt, is Wally Hicks. Go ahead, keep going.
Annually, probably. If they have to have a rate increase during the year for whatever reason, if their insurance rate goes up or whatever, which I think we've all experienced that last year. So in this county, almost everybody I've talked to, their insurance has gone up. So, if that happens, they can request that it be changed and say, please approve this one because, but at least annually.
Now,
okay.
So her response.
What happened there?
Her response was, well, no, first we should ask our audience. You just saw that. So here's a couple of questions for you. Do you think that you just heard Cheryl saying that they were going to need to come in with their rate sheet and they were going to explain why they were raising their rates and then they would be approved?
Yes.
Is that what she said?
I think that's what she said, but that's up to you. You know what? Maybe that's not what you heard.
During this meeting, for half an hour, they were talking about providing rate sheets and justifying your rates because they need to be fair,
Right.
I don't think it's any government's business to decide whether it's fair to you and your neighbor.
Yeah. Well, this just smacks of, the same thing that they have to do with the garbage business, now the garbage business, is different because they have a complete monopoly on, like in the town of Grants Pass, it's SOS Sanitation that is providing your garbage service. Is that not correct?
Yes. Right.
And so because they have this monopoly, their rate sheet has to go to them and be approved. Even that is a little weird to me.
Charter Cable doesn't have to do that. They have a monopoly.
Right. Yes, exactly. Okay. But they do have to cut back some of their, they have to cut back a piece of their profit to the county.
But they have a franchise. They have an exclusive monopoly franchise. And they don't have to justify diddly, as Keith Heck says. They don't have to.
Yeah.
Now, why is it that they don't have to, but the SOS does? Maybe you think it's good the SOS has to justify it. But why would two competing private companies that don't have an exclusive monopoly, why do they have to justify anything?
Well, because guess what? They're going to break these people up into little areas. This is just my own read on
Well, it
this.
sure
There's
looks like
nothing-
it.
Yeah, I'm pure speculation here, but I think they're going to pay to play in a certain area and have exclusivity there. And so because of that fact, they're going to try and, they say they're not doing any of this, and they say that none of this is going to benefit the county in any way financially.
That's what they say.
So then why don't you have a list about this long of the things that a fire company needs to have and provide, and then stay the heck out of the business?
In fact,
you don't have
you
to
as
get in here.
commissioners don't need to supply the list. You've already said you don't know what you're doing on this subject. If you don't know
Right.
what you're doing, then don't try to regulate it.
Yes, and the state and federal governments already regulate these people, and they have to meet a certain standard. And then there's a rating service, or there's where does the ISO rating
yeah.
come? Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
Insurance companies, right?
Yeah. So personally, I think that's enough. But listen, bottom line is, you just saw them talking about it. Come on, you can't be in denial about it.
Mike, they never saw it.
Yes.
We
obviously dubbed the audio.
5 people sitting at that table. Keith Heck was questioning all this. The other 4, Ginny Hall, Wally Hicks, Cheryl Walker, of course, and Simon Hare. He was not happy this morning when I saw him. Nobody's happy. I'm getting so much wrath from these people because we're playing back the video. How dare you play back the video? That's not what happened. Well, what do you think happened? Well, I have nothing to say to you.
Yes. Well, maybe if you weren't doing this stuff, people are only reacting to what they see. Now, listen, they may be weak-minded, and I might be influencing them with my Jedi mind trick because I get a little spun up about this. But I doubt it. I think we have a fairly intelligent audience. We're not spewing talking points to them. They know what they see when they're looking at it.
Well, look, I'm gonna tell you again. I know I keep repeating this, but this is an important distinction. People are automatically going to think, well, they can't be insane, and so they must be saying, no matter what these guys tell us, they must be saying that you're misinterpreting it. I asked them directly; they were not saying that. Right. Well, as in the past, they must be saying it's out of context. They are not saying that. This is a brand new tactic, and this brand new tactic is. What you just think that you saw, you didn't see it. It didn't happen. Okay, play the next one. Here's another example. We just played the one for you last time. We're going to play another. Here you go.
That's the purpose of the draft.
That's the purpose of a draft. But if they come in and justify, just like any other kind of garbage company that we have, they have to come in. If they want a rate increase, they bring it in, they justify it, and if it's sensible and they can document it, we don't say no. The same thing would be true of fire companies.
If it's sensible and they can document it and it's justified, these aren't all of these little things. Aren't these trapdoors? If they can justify, there's a trapdoor. If
it's sensible.
If it's sensible, well, who's the arbiter of that? They're the arbiter of safety. They're the arbiter of fairness, and now they're the arbiter of a proper rationale for this private company raising its rates.
These guys can't say what's sensible or honest or fair. Okay, leaving that aside, I did promise that we would let people say or think to themselves what it was that they just saw. Now keep in mind, I think Ginny Hall's a pretty nice person. I had past tense, a lot of respect for. You don't want to not have respect for this legal counsel. I mean, I like the guy. Every time I talk to Bill Meyer, I like him too. But he's saying that they never said anything about justification, Mike. Not a word about justification. Now, if I get up at a weekly business session, or if I say it on this show, Wally can certainly tell everybody this is going to be the new tactic. You wait, this will happen. Well, that's not really what I said. What I meant was something else. They
Well,
have to do that. They can't keep saying this.
Okay, but in order for them to come out and say that, they then have to say, well, yeah, that actually did happen.
Yes.
See, because you can't have it both ways. You do have to. Well, you have to say, well, Dale was talking about something else.
Yeah.
And I said that didn't happen. No, you know what? Listen, Wally. Here's your opportunity. We're showing this over and over. It's really obvious. Okay. So if this really, if you think this didn't happen, listen, come on here and rationalize it. We'll sit here and listen. We'll be very, very nice to you. Not going to argue with you. Not going to interject. You can say your piece and then we'll cut you loose. No big deal. You can tell us what happened here, but you're playing a dangerous game here.
Yes.
If indeed what you said was this didn't happen, clearly they're talking about submitting the company's rates to them and they will approve them or not. They don't say or not, but then people go, well, they never said or not. Yes, but it's implied.
Please.
It's implied.
That's what I said to the guys out in the hallway, the Merlin Fire guys. Well, what do you think about this? Yeah. I said, well, what if they don't approve it? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
if they don't approve it.
See, the way Cheryl's talking right now. Oh, yeah, sure. So of course, it's just a formality. It's a formality now. You wait until it comes time to approve it or not. They'll be giving you stern, they'll be overlooking it and going, well, I don't like this because my friend over here at this other place has some kind of issue with that. What you need to do is you need to bump this up a little bit or whatever. I'm telling you, you don't let these people begin regulating the rates that you charge. If you do that, they own your business.
And the other place where you really need
act at their behest.
Strong feedback. Guys, you must stop saying it didn't happen. They have it recorded. I don't trust that Dale Matthews and his recordings in the little back room. First of all, don't call it the little back room then. And second, it's on your recording.
Yeah. Anybody
that wants to can go and listen to it there. You did say it. No, I didn't. That's not going to work. They have to stop this. They're going to stop. This can't last forever. This is a new tactic. Like, you must hold your camera on your lap, Mr. Matthews. It's the rules. Weren't the rules. And then suddenly those weren't the rules anymore. Okay, the same thing's going to happen here. They can't keep doing this, but they need to get really strong feedback from people. This is not acceptable, you guys. This tactic will not work.
Well, I think the idea of poo-pooing it is because they're probably getting flack. The commissioners are probably getting emails, and it may well be as a direct result of stuff we're playing on this program.
Where else would they hear it?
Right. There may be some mailers going out, things happening like in that respect. However, at some point here, you're going to have to realize that people are watching. They understand what's going on here. You're not going to get away with, you may well institute this ordinance, but there's going to be a lot of people who are really, really mad about it if you do. And we can already tell what their fondest dreams are of how this thing can turn out. Franchises for money. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
They will be the ultimate arbiters of fairness, equality, safety, and you will have to come to them and get their blessing to not only change your rates. Listen, they'll add a whole bunch of other things that you won't be able to do.
A foot in the
on
door
top of this is how this goes.
A foot in the door for business licenses, which we don't have. When I went to go see Wally, I said, business licenses? We don't have them. He said, well, they're not really business licenses. They're licenses of businesses.
See, that's another thing that I don't want to believe that Wally said. I
totally understand that.
Because that's just silly.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's a justification. Okay, now we've got one more, and this.
Well, I cut off the tape; it wasn't even finished with this particular section.
Okay, but you can jump ahead, or you can play the rest of this. But the one more that you're going to see after this last little bit, or not after this last little bit, is at yesterday, wow, these days go by fast. At yesterday evening's weekly business session, once a month, it's in the evening, Simon Hare said that he and Keith Heck were basically in agreement about doing this, about this thing about justification of rates, about looking at the rates, and then you come in and you have to justify them, and then they approve them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that they're basically in agreement. Now, after this little piece, or not after this little last piece, you're going to see.
I've queued it ahead.
Okay, you're going to see for yourself, does it look like to you that the two of them are in basic agreement? Listen to this.
I've got a problem of me, as the representative of the board, putting out the rate schedule that you all acquiesce to and want to implement. And then, no, I don't like that.
I can see the board requesting the rate schedule.
Oh, sure.
And having that in the franchise agreement so that somebody living here doesn't get charged for whatever reason, $2, and the guy right here gets charged 10 for no justification in a rate schedule, just based on the whims of the franchise. And that would seem not fair. But if it was, you could go to the franchise agreement and say, well, you live 10 miles farther away than this guy. It's right here that you're going to be charged $2 per mile. That's why your rate is that, and this guy's rate is this. And they could find that out. It wouldn't be willy-nilly on the people signing up on it.
Now, can you go back and freeze frame that?
Freeze frame what?
Any part of it.
Sure.
Find that out. It wouldn't be
Any place, yeah. Okay, so look at the people at the table. Keith Heck is saying, I don't want us to get involved in them turning. I have no problem with them turning in their rates. I don't want us to get involved with approving them or not. Now, Simon Hare did not agree with him.
Then why approve? Why turn them in then?
Right. Now, Cheryl Walker, she, as I mentioned a couple of days ago, she's got a real problem with her papers, and she keeps arranging them and rearranging them and rearranging them on her desk. But
I think she has an agenda, and she's, trying to fill up time until she can implement her agenda. I'm speculating, of course, because I don't have any solid information, but that's what it seems like to me.
Most important two people in the room, to me, at this moment, are the two people in the foreground on the left. These two people are sitting right there. And they will tell you, they should tell you, they've said it to me, they've said it to others, they said it to the Fords. There was no discussion about approval of rates or justifications. None. Now, you're watching the show, and what do you think that you heard? One, are Simon and Keith in agreement on this issue? Because Simon said they were. Is Cheryl keeping out of this by saying, oh, we don't need any kind of justifications? Why would we do that? Is Wally Hicks, I'm sorry, Wally, but Bud, is Wally Hicks right when he says they didn't talk about justification of rates? And is Jenny Hall right when she told the Fords this morning, there's no discussion about, that's not true?
You know what's weird? People that are pushing the global warming agenda, and listen, I don't care if you think that that's what's happening or what, it doesn't matter. But the point is that the pro global warming side is very disingenuous, and they say, well, the debate is over, the debate is closed. In other words, shut the hell up.
Yeah,
we're not talking about this anymore. There's no more debate. It's our way or the highway. And, that's what's happening here. The debate is closed. Well, clearly the debate isn't closed. As a matter of fact, no, actually the debate is closed. They said that. It's on the tape. You can see it. It's a done deal. You can't deny that. You can, but think of what Dale and I would have had to do. We would have to take parts of speech of each of these people and cut them up and reconnoiter them back together to make sensible speech out of it and then change the words. There's no way we could have done that. And by the way, if you look, it matches their lips moving.
Yeah, it does.
and we're going to be putting out, if this is on YouTube. So, I mean, come on, really?
Okay. So bottom line then, getting back to the two goons on the show here. This won't last. They can't keep doing this. That's just not going to happen. And so next is going to be that either they're going to shut up entirely. I predict that because we're talking about contracts. I mean, they could redefine it that, well, these are all contracts because they're franchise contract business licenses, whatever they're going to call them next week. It now has to all be done in executive session. Wouldn't that solve their problem entirely? If you don't hear anything that they're saying, then they can say anything they want to.
Well, and I'll tell you what, as soon as they take this into executive session, I would recommend that everybody that has a problem with this barrage them incessantly about this, because if they're taking this into executive session, they're also fast tracking it. It's going to happen very, very quick, and they're going to come out and make the slightest little blip of, trying to pass this in they may not even take it to the weekly business session. They may even do this in the back room.
They've done this before. Now you may be one of the people watching this show. Let's suppose you live in Cave Junction, okay? And we'll talk about Cave Junction and that kind of stuff next time. But you may be one of those people that says, I don't give a flip about, some fire guys in Merlin. Who cares? And you would be right for your specific case. Do you give a flip about this new tactic they're using of denying that you're watching this? You're not even watching this show. What's the matter with you? Do you believe when Simon Harris says we're basically in agreement? He said that in an open public meeting. It's all on tape. Do you think that he's right? Is that just wishful thinking? Maybe it's just wishful thinking, Mike. Come on now. That everything's going to be fine. If you'll just sit back and relax, remember, it's LIE. No, capital letters, SCAM. No, that's not what he's saying. It's a DRAFT, okay? And
Yes.
And you should just sit back and relax, because since this is only a draft, there's going to be many revisions.
Yeah, this is the funny part about this draft nonsense, is that from draft to draft, it doesn't get better, it gets worse.
It does.
So it's not like, you shouldn't worry because it's a draft. You need to start worrying when the concept hits the brain of one of these people, because it's the next scheme. Listen, this doesn't have to be like this. Okay, no. They could easily go, well, you know what? We need to require a certain number of things, and we got a list for you. It's short. Here it is. Then you're done. Then you're done, and these people can go off into the sunset and do their business, and everybody else can enjoy, competitive shopping for fire protection services, and we'll all go on and live happily ever after. Now, I understand. It may well be that the county is going to try to get an income out of this. I think if they're going to do something like that, they should put it up to a vote of the people and say, hey, listen.
That's what Dan Trader from, there's more to this meeting. We're not going to play it tonight, thank heaven. But that's what Dan Trader said. He said to Keith Heck, well, shouldn't you really put this up to a vote of the people? And Keith handed him his head. I mean, even the guy from the Daily Courier wrote that. I called him. I congratulated him. Keith said, well, would you want to pay for this? And there's no need to do that. And we're not going to take it to the vote. Really? Here's what you need to know. Do you remember when the ordinances, the junk ordinances, lost by 80%? And I saw Simon in the hallway this morning. I said, this is another draft ordinance. I don't need to be lectured by you, Mr. Matthews. Okay. Look, the thing is, we tried to warn them. And there were so many things in that. There's this cheating and that cheating and this cheating and that cheating. And you remember, well, what do you mean by cheating? Cheryl didn't want a voter's pamphlet. Why? If there was a voter's pamphlet, people could put in their argument against it. You think? Now, all you really need to know, in my personal opinion, is you need to know whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, or protect the children, or what about the kittens in the sunshine. All you need to do is say, who's lying to me the most? No voter's pamphlet? Really? And when there was a voter's pamphlet, guess what happened to that? Cheryl was not happy. Why, everybody loves this. I mean, they're congratulating me everywhere I go.
I think that this is ultimately not going to go well. I think this is going to be another, sad failure on the part of the commissioners. And,
it doesn't need to be this way. Why don't they just stick to, what I would say to Keith Eck is, Keith, stick to ribbon cutting. All you need is somebody to point you in the right direction and make you stop running with scissors, and then you can cut all the ribbons you want to. Don't put up a brand new ordinance on the heels of what? The last one where you got 80% no? On this one where you're probably going to dive into executive session so nobody can hear what you're saying? What are you doing? Don't lie.
And listen, I got to tell you something. I'm not totally against this ordinance, but in its current form, in the way that they're trying to do it, it's as an expansion of government, as a bureaucratic nightmare with where these people are constantly having to justify their existence. I mean, this is not good. It's not going to be good for competition. It's not going to be good for rates. It's not going to be good. Listen, if they care about safety and that's what it's about, before and after, there has to be some sort of a discernible difference in the level of safety. Right. And I doubt very seriously that there will be at all. They will have just jumped through this hoop and paid to play. And
why did they have to say? They have to say this is not about rates or approving rates, because it's about rates and approving rates. They're going to say it's not, because otherwise it's just about safety, and they've got basically nothing to do except maybe to have a list of your safety standards. They don't need to know your rates. They don't need to approve your rates. You don't need to come in and beg them or justify to them what your rates are. Forget you. I'm going to charge any rate I want to. That's not your business. Safety, yeah. I agree with Mike. That might be their business. I don't think they know anything about fire safety, but
I personally don't think it's their business. But if you wanted to say, okay, here is a list of logical requirements and logical, listen, that is different to different people. Clearly. Yeah. And I mean, if you ask Cheryl Walker what's logical, she'd say a whole lot bigger document than the one we have right now.
It's growing. This document's growing.
Yes. So you know what? I would say this is bad. Unfortunately, I think because these people are involved, the whole thing is bad, and that's just how it's going to be. And unfortunately, unless a big stink gets made, this thing will pass. This thing ultimately will become, the law here in Josephine County. And, our lives will go on. But in terms of fire service, it's going to be more of a pain in the butt for the fire people. And it's going to be more expensive for their clients. And that's just my thinking on it.